There's a moment, quiet and familiar, when he sends the "I miss you" text, long after the conversation about commitment ended, with a vague silence, and your heart stirs, not with joy but with conflict, because he doesn't want anything serious. But he still wants to see you. He still reaches out in the middle of the night, still looks at you like you're the only softness he knows in a world of hard edges. He laughs at your jokes, listens to your worries, maybe even calls you babe, but pulls back the moment you reach for anything deeper. And so you find yourself in this quiet ache, not quite chosen, not quite free. Love just enough to stay, never enough to fully rest. You start to question yourself. Is it me? Did I want too much? Did I rush him? Should I just go with the flow? But the truth is, you feel it. You feel the weight of his uncertainty press against your ribcage. You feel how your nervous system holds its breath every time you text first. You feel how your worth becomes negotiable in the silence between his words. And yet, you stay. Not because you're weak, but because the part of you that believes love must be earned is louder than the part of you that knows it should feel safe. Carl Jung said that within every woman lives a reflection of the collective unconscious, a web of inherited emotion that has seen lifetimes of women give everything for half-formed promises. This is not just your pain, it's our pain, and maybe that's why you've been stuck in the loop. Because a part of you still believes that if you love him well enough, patiently enough, unconditionally enough, he'll wake up and choose you. But what if winning doesn't look like convincing him? What if the real win is remembering you don't have to? By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to untangle yourself from emotional breadcrumbs without turning cold, and how to rise into a version of you that is no longer waiting to be chosen, because she already has herself. You try not to overthink it, but the ache comes quietly, especially in the spaces where he used to text you back quickly or call you just to hear your voice. He doesn't want anything serious. You heard him say it. Maybe not in those exact words, but you felt it in the hesitation in his tone, the way he avoids the word relationship like it's a trap. And yet, he still wants to see you. He still lingers in your life like perfume after someone leaves the room, faint but unforgettable. He'll compliment you, initiate intimacy, maybe even say he misses you, and somehow it always feels like almost. Almost love. Almost enough, almost chosen, but never quite whole. You find yourself playing emotional detective, rereading texts, replaying conversations, listening to friends who say if he didn't care, he wouldn't come back. But deep down, beneath the logic, beneath the rationalizations, there's a quiet voice you try to silence, the one that whispers, "Why am I always the one waiting?" There's a weight to that kind of waiting. The waiting that happens in your chest, not on your phone. You wait to feel certain. You wait to feel wanted without having to prove your value. You wait to feel like he's all in instead of halfway out. And it hurts, not because you're naive, but because part of you believes that if you just love him well enough, he'll change his mind. Carl Jung would call this a projection, where a woman places her deepest unmet needs onto someone who mirrors back her unconscious patterns. Often, we're not falling for the man in front of us, but for the symbol of something we've been longing for our entire lives, to finally feel like we are enough to be chosen. The part of you that keeps trying to win him over may be rooted in emotional memory, a shadow wound formed in moments when your love was not returned or was made to feel conditional. You might have learned quietly and without words that love had to be earned. Earned through patience. Earned through softness. Earned through staying, even when it hurt. And so now your nervous system confuses crumbs with affection. His heart effort feels familiar because it mirrors the kind of connection you were taught to accept. You start to believe that being loved slowly is more romantic. that being chosen eventually is better than not being chosen at all. But that voice inside you, the one you keep silencing, she knows. She knows that love should not feel like emotional math. She knows you shouldn't have to shrink to fit his timeline. She knows that staying in a situation that constantly questions your worth is not strength, it's survival. And you've survived enough. There comes a moment, not loud, not dramatic, where your soul just decides. You decide to stop explaining yourself. You decide to stop confusing availability with intimacy. You decide that being seen halfway is not enough when you were born to be seen fully. That is the beginning of healing, not through bitterness, but through clarity. Not through closing your heart, but by returning it to yourself. Jung believed that the process of individuation, the journey to wholeness, begins when we reclaim the parts of ourselves we've outsourced to others. That's what this is. This is not about punishing him. It's about unbinding yourself. It's about realizing that the win was never making him choose you. It's remembering that your value is not up for negotiation. And slowly, without needing to shout, you start to live like a woman who knows she is the home, not the hallway. You start to speak less and observe more. You start to let silence be your response to confusion, because clarity lives in stillness. You start to make peace with the fact that some men will not rise, not because you weren't enough, but because their own walls are too high to see you clearly. And when you choose yourself, not out of anger, but out of reverence, the universe shifts. You stop auditioning. You stop waiting. You stop mistaking attention for affection, because now you are no longer in pursuit of being chosen. You are choosing you. There's a moment, just after he leaves, or after he avoids another conversation about what you are, when everything inside you goes quiet. But it's not peace. It's numbness. It's that subtle ache of disappointment you've trained yourself to hide, even from yourself. You try to play it cool. You tell yourself you're okay with the casualness. You try to be the woman who doesn't need too much. But inside, there's a war. One part of you wants to believe he'll wake up and see what he's about to lose, while another part of you already knows. He sees. He just isn't ready to hold what he sees. And that's where your deepest confusion begins. Why does he keep coming back if he doesn't want anything serious? Why can he show up with such warmth, such tenderness, but then pull away the moment it feels real? By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to see this dynamic for what it truly is, not through self-blame or games, but through clarity and deep feminine self-trust. Because this isn't just about him. It's about understanding the hidden layers beneath his detachment. Carl Jung taught that every man carries within him an inner feminine, the anima, and when he hasn't integrated it, love feels threatening. Vulnerability feels like danger. The moment you touch something real in him, he pulls away, not because he's too much, but because his ego isn't ready to dissolve the walls he's built. But this video isn't about fixing him, it's about freeing you. It's about reclaiming your energy from dynamics that confuse you and learning how to unhook from the emotional pattern of trying to prove your worth. You're not broken for wanting to be chosen. You're just awakening to something deeper. A truth that's been buried under years of trying to earn love instead of being met by it. And once you see that clearly, you'll never chase in the same way again. There comes a point, after the messages that don't lead anywhere, the deep eye contact that somehow still avoids depth, the nights that feel intimate, but mornings that feel hollow, where your soul whispers, "You cannot keep living like this." You've given him softness, warmth, patience. You've given him the benefit of the doubt again and again. You've tried to be the woman who's understanding, who doesn't pressure, who keeps it light even when your heart is screaming to be seen. And yet, here you are, stuck in the in-between, not claimed, not completely discarded. He wants you close, but not too close. He wants your body, your laughter, your nurturing energy, but he pulls away from your emotional truth. This is where most women start to spiral. They begin to doubt their worth, to overanalyze, to prove they're enough by doing more. Texting first, showing up, more available, trying harder to stay on his mind. But that path doesn't lead to devotion, it leads to depletion. So I want to offer you something else. 4 strategies that are not about fixing him, but about returning you to your power. These strategies are how you win, not by winning him, but by winning your energy, your clarity, your radiance back. And when you do that, you shift the entire dynamic. You stop orbiting around his fear and you start standing in your worth. The first strategy is mirror his energy. Don't chase. If he gives you a flicker, give him a flicker. If he pulls back, let yourself be still. This isn't about playing games. It's about letting the emotional field breathe. In Jungian psychology, the ego often defends against what it fears. When you chase, you feed his fear. You give the ego something to run from. But when you mirror, you expose his avoidance. You allow him to feel the space he's creating, and in that space, truth starts to surface. You become the mirror that reflects his inner world back to him. The second strategy is speak through silence, not through over-explaining. Your worth does not live in your ability to make him understand. If he truly can't hold your needs, no amount of explaining will change that. Jung said the unconscious speaks in symbols, and silence is one of the most powerful symbols there is. It says, I trust myself enough not to beg for what should be freely given. It leaves room for him to wonder, to reflect, to feel the consequence of his avoidance. It restores balance. It makes your presence a privilege, not a given. The third strategy is withdraw, to create emotional clarity. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but to return to yourself. This is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole by separating from unconscious patterns. Your instinct might be to stay emotionally hooked to him, hoping your love will change him. But withdrawal gives you vision, it gives you truth, it gives you back the parts of yourself you've been handing over, piece by piece, every time you prioritize his comfort over your clarity. When you pull back, you see who he becomes in your absence. That's the man he really is. The fourth strategy is live in your feminine, not in reaction. He may not be ready for something real, but that does not mean you should harden. The most magnetic women are the ones who stay soft with themselves, who let their radiance speak louder than their pain. Don't try to outman him, don't match his coldness. Jung taught that men disconnected from their anima, the inner feminine, often fear the very love they crave. When you stay in your feminine, you offer a different frequency, one that's rooted, not needy, one that knows love is not something to be chased, but something to be received. And perhaps most importantly, you stop trying to win him. You begin to win yourself. And that's when everything changes, not because he suddenly commits, but because your soul remembers. You were never meant to convince anyone to choose you. You were meant to choose yourself, fully, clearly, unapologetically. And when you do, the men who fear depth will fall away, and the ones who are ready will rise. There's a truth no one tells you when you fall for someone who isn't ready. Not ready for depth, not ready for consistency, not ready for the love you're capable of giving. It's that your pain doesn't come from him not choosing you. It comes from you believing that his inability to choose means you aren't worth choosing. And that belief? It is the lie that breaks women again and again. You show up soft, intuitive, emotionally available, and somehow his walls grow higher. His words are vague, his actions inconsistent. He keeps you around, but at arm's length. Close enough to feel his warmth, but never close enough to feel safe. So you stay, halfway, in hope, in fear, in confusion. You ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? Am I too much? Am I not enough? You overgive, overthink, overfeel, and still he won't meet you in the middle. But what if this isn't about fixing the dynamic? What if this is about healing you? Carl Jung once shared that in his early career he became deeply involved in the exploration of his own unconscious. During a period of great inner conflict, he would sit alone and let images and emotions arise from his depths. Not judge them, not silence them, but meet them. He called this active imagination. It was during this time that Jung came face to face with his shadow, the parts of himself he had rejected, feared, or denied. That experience didn't make him weak, it made him whole. And the same is true for you. This moment in your life, where you're giving your heart to someone who refuses to meet it, is not proof that you're broken. It's proof that a part of you still believes love must be earned by shrinking, pleasing, proving. But love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love. It's a repetition of emotional survival. And the only way to win is to stop playing that role. Let him go if he can't go deeper. Let him be a mirror that shows you where your old wound still lives. Let his pain be your teacher, not your prison, not harden you. Because the truth is, you were never meant to chase clarity from someone unclear. You were never meant to beg for effort from someone who only gives crumbs. And you were never meant to twist yourself to become lovable in the eyes of a man who hasn't even made room in his soul for real love. You were meant to choose yourself. You were meant to come home to your intuition. You were meant to reclaim the power you've handed to people who didn't know what to do with it. This is individuation, the journey back to your essence. It's when you break free from the unconscious belief that you are only worthy if someone else says so. It's when you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing. Not choosing him. Not choosing fantasy, but choosing peace. You win not by making him change his mind. You win by remembering that your love, your light, your feminine energy is not something to be tested or tolerated. It's sacred, and it deserves to be met with certainty, safety, and depth. If he doesn't want anything serious but still wants to see you, let that be enough of an answer, and let that answer awaken your next chapter. Because you were never here to play small in your own story. You are the story. You are the magic. You are the one he'll remember long after he realizes what he couldn't hold. But this journey isn't about being remembered. It's about remembering yourself. If this message touched you, subscribe. Tell me in the comments what part spoke to you most. And please, share this with a woman who's forgetting how powerful she is. Let's rise together. Not bitter, not hardened, but free. Whole, and finally at peace.